Singing Dutchman Productions. Hello and welcome to Doug's Front Porch, a podcast where I get to sit down with friends old and new and have honest conversations. Today, I welcome to the front porch a dear friend, an old friend, but she's not old, but an old friend, Sara Mull. Welcome to the front porch, Sara.
Hi, Doug. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's so good to be with you and being able to talk. Well, not physically with you, sadly, but able to talk with you again. It's been a long time since we had a chance to catch up, and I'm so excited to pick your brain about quite a couple different things tonight. So, if you're ready to jump in.
I am ready.
All right, so let's start at the beginning. Before I tell the audience how we know each other, let's get them to know you a little bit. So tell us a little bit about where you were raised, where you grew up, brothers, sisters, anything like that you want to share?
I was raised in Greenville, Pennsylvania, which is pretty much right smack dab in between Erie and Pittsburgh, and right on the Ohio border. It's about 10 minutes over to Youngstown, Ohio, 20 minutes maybe, to give you kind of a reference point. It's just a small little town. And I went to a very small high school. I graduated with about 95 people in my senior class. And I was one of three girls. I am the middle child. That should tell you a little bit about why I am the way I am. My dad was a cop. My mom was a nurse. So I followed my mom's footsteps into the nursing field. And that about sums it up. Just a general overview.
No, that's perfect. And for a lot of people, we have listeners to this podcast from all over the place, different countries and so forth. But people that are familiar, I have a lot of listeners from southeastern Pennsylvania. So when we get anything west of like Harrisburg, for a lot of us, that's foreign country, foreign territory. So I have never been to Greenville, specifically to your hometown. I mean, I've gone across Pennsylvania on Interstate 80 into Ohio, but how would you describe that part of Western Pennsylvania? Is it gritty steel town Pittsburgh, or is it something different, or is it more agricultural?
Yes, Greenville is more farm land. There's a lot of cow farms, dairy farms. Um, it used to be a big steel town. We had a company called Steel Car here that went under in the 80s. I would say mid to late 80s. It went under, put a lot of people out of work. So it is considered a distressed community. You know, there's a lot of poverty. We actually, something kind of interesting, because we had this big company here, Steel Car, we have one of the few roundhouses for trains that is still intact in our town at the Steel Car building site. So but yeah, we were big in railroad, and it just really hasn't been the same here since about the mid 80s when that went under. But now primarily just farmland, and that's about it.
Well, that's all right. Yeah, that speaks to a lot of rural Pennsylvania these days, and hopefully, I know there's a lot of places here in the area where I live that are starting to make kind of like a resurgence coming back from the Rust Belt, and I hope that maybe stretches its way out to your part of Pennsylvania too at some point in the near future. Let's tell the listeners how we know each other. So we met at college at Lock Haven University when we were both doing our undergraduates. So I'll tell my version of the story, and then I want you to tell your version of the story. So I was a nerdy little freshman coming from, the outskirts of Philadelphia to Lock Haven. I knew practically nobody when I got there. And I was trying to find my way and didn't really know what to get involved in on campus. I knew I wanted to get involved in something on campus. And of course, having a music background like I had growing up, I gravitated towards what were my musical options. And I had played an instrument, but there was just something about the band at LHU that just didn't attract me. So I said, well, I love to sing too. And I did a lot of singing in high school. And I thought, well, I'll see what this choir, and the choir groups are all about. And walking into that stuff, not knowing anybody, and got involved. And what I distinctly remember about you and your friend group in particular is you were all older than me. I don't remember if you were juniors when I was a freshman, but there was some time and age in between us. And here was, this guy that didn't know anybody, nerd, and you guys were absolutely uh, some of the most welcoming people I'd ever met. That group of your friends that were involved in the choral program. And it made all the difference because I could have easily, did that for a semester and not have created any kind of connection with anybody and said, okay, that's not for me. I'm out. I'm going to go somewhere else and join some other club or, do something else or not get involved in anything. I could have done that too. But you guys, threw your arms open and said, no, come, you're part of this family now. Come party with us on a Friday night or come over for, let's all get together on a Saturday night. And I always, looking back on it now, 20 years removed, I often think back, there was no reason that this group of upperclassmen had to do that to, lonely freshmen that were coming into the program. But looking back on it, it made all the difference because it made me extremely invested in the program. I sang all 4 years, then followed after you guys moved on, and then I and my friends, we emulated, or at least tried to emulate what you guys showed us. So I can't thank you enough for how welcoming and friendly you in particular, and a lot of the people that were in your age group, that grade, the juniors and seniors, for welcoming me and making me feel part of something that was bigger than just me. So that's my story. I always looked up to you guys too. It's like, well, here are the upperclassmen. They've been away from home. They've adjusted to college life. They know what they're doing. And I didn't know any of that stuff. I was the first person in my family to go to college. I'd never really been away from the farm, growing up. So, I mean, it wasn't just that you made me part of that group, but you truly made me feel welcomed completely at that on campus. So I can't thank you enough. And I think from that short time that we got to spend together and sing together, well, we've grown into, a great relationship. So that's my version of the story, Sarah. It's up to you now to tell me what you think.
So I would 100% agree with your story there. I think that I'm just the type of person that I love people and I love making new friends. And the big guy that I married and met there, he has never met a person that he did not turn into a friend ever. And we jokingly say all the time that he makes friends everywhere he goes. And a little bit of that, I was a little shy in college, but always willing to welcome people with open arms. But I've learned over the years, I just can't be shy anymore because Josh has taught me not to be shy around people. And, Frank Ressick was there. He was somebody that I was always with, and he was the same exact way. We just loved having friends and people to hang out with and stand in the stairwells and sing with. And it didn't matter if you were some new kid coming in your first year. We had exchange students that hung out with us some years. We had people that were older than us, people that were younger. And I think we can attribute some of that to our leader. Of course, Ron Miller was that type of person too. And he always encouraged that in us and brought us together. And I think that was an important piece in all of that as well. But yeah, I never see any reason not to just include anybody who wants to belong and be a part of things. And so I would agree with that. I think
I think all too often in society today, we're afraid to step out of our comfort zone or whatever. But doing that can make such a huge difference in so many people's lives, really, when you think about it. I mean, I'm just one example, but one of my friends that came in at the same time, Mikey, we didn't know each other, but we met each other through this group of friends and through singing. So, it does, and we're all friends still, 20 plus years later. So it definitely speaks to the power of all of that, and being willing to just go out there and extend a
yes.
warm hello goes so far, that farther than we realize, I think, all too often. So I want to turn and talk a little bit professionally now. So you mentioned earlier that your father was a police officer and your mother was a nurse, and you decided to follow in your mom's footsteps. I want to ask you first off, what was what was that? Was it growing up seeing your mom as a nurse that set a role model for you, or was it just something about this idea of nursing that drew you to that profession? Because it's a calling. I truly believe nursing, like teaching, and of course clergy, it's a calling in life. It's not for everybody. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Sure. So when I graduated from high school, I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and every single person ever told me go to school for music because, as you know, I played the piano and I sang, and I just really didn't know what I wanted to do. So it was not an option. My parents were insistent that I attend college, so I went and majored in music, but I really just couldn't find the love of teaching it to other people. I enjoyed playing, I enjoyed, everything that we did together, singing and all that, but I just couldn't see myself teaching or performing for life. So, as you know, Josh and I got married, and I had two of my five children. And um, I've always been one of those people that, like, an idea pops in my head and I just go for it. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about it and worrying over it.
Mhm.
And I was really just looking for something to do to make a living at and figuring out what I wanted to do. And I thought, well, maybe I should be a nurse. And so I did all the paperwork and got all the enrollment done. And I went, and thankfully and very luckily, I fell in love with it. I think you find out very early when you go into nursing whether it's for you or not. It is exactly as you said. It's something that is a calling, and you find out very early on if you love it or hate it. And a lot of people do join up and then drop out because it is not for everybody. And I think I was there about a week, and I said to my husband, "This is it. I found it. This is what I want to do with my life. I just feel so comfortable here." And it was really hard. By the time I graduated my prereq courses and actually went to nursing school, I had three of my five children and went through nursing school with those three little ones, all under the age of 4. And it was really a struggle, but it is the best decision I ever made. And yes, I think, my family are mainly in the service industry from above me, my mom and dad. My aunts and uncles, all of them were firemen, police officers, my grandma and grandpa, everybody, they all served in some capacity. And it was just something I knew that I had a heart for, is that I wanted to do something where I could take care of people.
Yeah, it's definitely a field that, people tell me, "Oh, I don't know how you can teach, and I don't know how you can work with teenagers all day long." But I would turn around and say, "Oh, it's easy. That's nothing." But I could turn and look at you and say, "I don't know how you can go into, the random hospital room and roll some 80 guy year older over and give him a sponge bath and show him compassion, someone that you don't know from Adam or Eve, and be able to be that loving touch, that uh, that shoulder of comfort, that hand of comfort that so many people, in those situations are scared or nervous or, unsure of what the future might bring. And you have to be able to provide that love that, doctors are doctors, but to me, and this is me personally speaking, when a doctor, in all the situations that I've been where I've been in a hospital, and it's not been very often, luckily, but doctors come in, they do their job, they say what they need to say, they provide their service and they leave. But it's always the nurses that are the ones that A, explain what the doctor just said to us or tried to say to us, and B, are the ones that make us feel like, oh, we're okay. We're in good hands. We're good. We're gonna hopefully be okay. So how do you do that?
Well, I tell people all the time. So now I don't do bedside nursing. I do get a chance to sometimes, but I manage other nurses, and so and nursing assistants. And one of the things we talk about a lot is having empathy for people. And we jokingly say when we hire people, you can really teach anybody the skills that they need to take care of people. You can teach people the medications and the what to listen for and watch for, but you can't teach people how to be nice. And I think that's one of the core things that you really run into in nursing is that you have to have a heart for people, and you have to care about people, and you have to have a deep well of empathy, but you also have to know sometimes how to, draw that line with people, because you really can give too much of yourself sometimes to people and really get you know burn out by the constant need of people. But I think it's just something that some people have in them. It's not something you can really learn. um, Having endless patience with people
Hmm.
and understanding that when people are sick, they're not at their best, and that's okay. And, maybe if I saw you a couple weeks from now at your healthiest, you might be a really nice person. But while you were in that hospital bed, you were yelling at me, you're upset with me. And, that's kind of what we deal with every day. And I just think that's something you have to have.
Right, and for in this podcast series, I've interviewed a lot of people that have tough jobs, and nurses is, I mean, up there by far, top 10 or whatever we want to say. How and I've asked a lot of people this question that are in these tough professions. So how do you distance yourself from some of that, or how do you deal with it? Because everybody, there are some jobs when you punch out at 3 o'clock, you leave, you're done. Like, you don't think about it. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to check your email. You don't have to do anything. And then there's other professions where you never really leave it. You leave, like, I leave school at 3 o'clock every day, but as I'm driving home, I'm thinking about the kid that I saw without a jacket that day. I'm thinking about the kid that I know is going home to an abusive parent. I think about the kid that, X, Y, and Z. And nursing, I mean, my goodness, you've spent 8 hour shift or 12-hour shift with someone that might be terminally ill or has just come out of a major surgery, and you punch out and you leave. I mean, you're human. You have to take that with you. How do you personally, or how did you learn to release that baggage so that you can go home to your family and have Sarah time, have mom time, have wife time?
Mm-hmm. So, even though this is PG rated, I'm going to tell you. um, no, I'm just kidding. We, it is a struggle, and I think some of us struggle more with it than others, just depending on your personality and the type of person you are. I really struggle with that. That is something that, not only the patient situations, but my employee situations, that I'm not the type of person who can't care. And I think as a leader in an organization, that is one of the things that you have to try to balance is when you care so much about the people that work for you and the people that you're taking care of, it's a daily constant struggle not to get bogged down in that and let it weigh you down. And one of the things that I do personally is I practice mindfulness. I don't know if you've ever heard of that at all. It's kind of all the rage right now, but
Mm-hmm.
I went to a training session a couple of years ago, and I was extremely honored to be able to go to a session with Dr. Barry Curzon, who is the personal physician of the Dalai Lama. And he talked, yeah, it was really awesome. And basically, in a nutshell, at the end of the day, all it is being able to approach situations, take the information in, examine it without being judgmental about it, and then letting it go, dealing with it and letting it go. And not just, and that's really where you have to find that balance. It's not that you can't feel bad about things, it's not that it can't sadden you, but if you just keep piling all that in there and letting it run around in your mind all the time, constantly ruminating about it, that's where I had the struggle. And so this really tells you, take it in, deal with it, let it go, move on. And so that's what I've had to do to really find that balance for me. And Josh will tell you, there are days that I come home and I just say to everybody, don't look at me, don't talk to me. I'm going to my room and I'm going to cry and I'll be okay. But it really is a struggle, and more so now with COVID. It's really, really been a struggle because as nurses, we really want to see patients get better and we want to send them home. And for the last year, that has not been the case. It's been an everyday, constant struggle trying to get people better. And some of them we sent home, but a lot of them we didn't. And even the ones we sent home,
Yeah.
a lot of them came back.
You segued into something that I wanted to talk about anyway. And I mean, the elephant in the room is COVID. So thinking back to March of last year, how soon was it at where
Yeah.
you are working? When did you first see your first COVID patient come in the door?
We immediately. I actually was out for 2 weeks, right in smack dab in the middle of March, because right as soon as it hit the mainstream and everybody started hearing about it, we had had a patient in the house that we had been taking care of for days on end. And we sent her to a nursing home where they started testing patients and immediately were notified that that patient had COVID. And so everyone who had taken care of her over those several days had to quarantine. And we were very, very lucky. Out of, I want to say, 17 staff members on my unit, me included, only one person actually contracted it. And we don't even know for sure that she got it there. But out of all of us, we were just very, very lucky. And again, nurses, we wash our hands obsessively. And, um, but it was, we saw peaks and valleys, and there were times where we only had one or two patients on the unit with COVID, and then there were times where uh, more than half of our census of patients. My unit holds 24 patients. The most we saw was we had 16 patients on our unit that had COVID, and it's very time consuming care because you have to put on all the garb, and you go in and you try to do everything that you need to do while you're in there, so you're not running in and out constantly and endangering yourself and everybody else. And so yeah, it was immediate, and we are definitely seeing a decline now. We go days now without having anybody on my unit with COVID, which is a huge blessing. I'm so glad that it's calming down, but it's been a year.
So this is something I've often wondered when this all hit, and you like you said you had a patient like immediately. Did you guys have any idea even what you were doing and what you were supposed to do? I mean, that sounds kind of a dumb question, but at the same time, you were dealing with a new disease.
So it felt like at first things were changing constantly. We at first thought that we could just wear a PAPR or an N95 and we would be okay. And then we started wearing goggles and, of course, always the gowns and the gloves and everything. But every day it seemed like things were changing. But we knew right from the start that this was a droplet carried illness. And so if we were at least 6 feet away and we wore our masks and everything, that we would be okay. There's a lot of information out there in the media, and even, of course, that trickles down to the nursing staff because they hear all that stuff out in the media. And so it was a constant every day. Things are changing again. Things are changing again, but we're safe. We have the equipment we need. We're going to be okay. And we really have been okay. Our biggest battle has been in fighting the media and all of that spread of misinformation that kept people getting sick and kept them coming in our doors. And that was really our biggest struggle. But as nurses, we see so many illnesses that, yes, COVID has been very deadly and it has spread so rapidly, and that has been our biggest concern. But, in a hospital, we come into contact with so many things. I mean, we take care of patients with tuberculosis and shingles and C. diff. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So, we know how to protect ourselves and other people from that kind of stuff. And the flu, there's just so many different things. And SARS has been around for years. I took care of patients back in 2008 when we had the first to me in my nursing career outbreak of SARS. So it wasn't completely unknown to us, but Definitely a different
Okay.
variant.
How do you think COVID will change your job and nursing as a whole as we move forward?
Huh. Well, unfortunately, we were already seeing a nursing shortage, and COVID has definitely magnified that problem. We are seeing record number of nurses leaving the bedside because of COVID, because of the stress, because people are just burnt out. It's hard. It's really, really hard. And unfortunately, with people getting sick and nobody really wanting to come to the bedside when this is going on, we have seen, we're still trying to take care of the same number of patients, and they're a lot sicker than they used to be. And so people are really looking, I mean, people are leaving nursing altogether, not just leaving the bedside. So I think, I don't think it will change the care that we give. I think, yes, we've learned some things from COVID. Um, I think, but I think the biggest challenge for us is going to be getting people to care for patients. And I think, again, the media has been our biggest enemy with all of this because, they've, certain groups have vilified nurses, certain groups have made them heroes. It just depends where you look, really. I've read terrible articles about doctors and nurses having to move out of their own towns because of people feeling like they were the ones spreading the misinformation. And there's just so much going on out there that I think it really has chased healthcare workers out of the field, and that's very disappointing. But I'm not really sure what the answer is to that one.
Right, right. I often have a lot of my students as they're starting to think about, what they want to do when they're older, and they'll ask me, what do you think I should do, or can you give me advice, blah blah. But I have a lot of students that will say, I really want to go into the healthcare field, and I have a particular lot of kids that want to go into nursing. If those same 17 and 16-year-olds came and said that to you, what is your advice to them?
Oh my gosh, if that's something they think they want to do, I would tell them absolutely to do that. It is an extremely rewarding career. There are so many opportunities. You can do, I mean, anything. You can be a flight nurse, you can work in the hospital, you can work in an office, you can be an educator. There's just so much out there. It's such a great opportunity. What I tell my new nurses when I hire people right out of nursing school is just that nursing is mentally, emotionally, and physically demanding. But at the end of the day, if you're the type of person who really wants to feel like you're making a difference in somebody's life, it really is a great place to get that feeling, because you will make a difference in so many lives. Like literally, when I have conversations with non-medical people, sometimes I forget that they don't have the same experiences as me, and I know what it's like to save somebody's life. I know what it is like to give somebody CPR and see them come back, and I know what it's like to stand there and hold somebody's hand as they take their last breath, and be that support for the family that's there with them. And um, something I forgot to mention to one of your earlier questions is, in letting stuff go and how do you not get burdened by all that. There are so many patients. I've been a nurse for 15 years, and I can still tell you stories as if it happened yesterday about patients that I took care of at the start of my nursing career, because you don't forget people ever. I remember the first time I saw a patient die. I remember standing at a bedside during nursing school and seeing the first baby that didn't belong to me or a family member being born. I remember every single patient I've ever had to perform chest compressions on. Like, that stuff stays with you, because not only does it impact all your patients and their lives, but it impacts the caregiver as well. So I would tell them absolutely, if they want to go into nursing, absolutely go into nursing. It is a great career.
Well, let's take your nursing hat off and put your mom slash wife hat on for a minute. Um, as you mentioned earlier in the interview, you are the mother of 5 children, and I know your husband, and he's just nothing more than a really big kid. So you're actually the mom of 6, to be honest. How and you have a demanding career. So, I mean, there's people that have a hard enough time managing their own life without kids. Here you are, a professional, a demanding career, 5 children, and a husband who's very active in his profession. How in the world do you balance all of that?
Well, I tell people this all the time. I could never in a million years do what I do if not for Josh being how he is. And he is truly a partner to me in every sense of the word. Um, there's no that's mom's job and that's dad's job, and mom's responsible for all this stuff. And he'll tell you too, I get really upset with people, and I'm not kidding you when I tell you I'll get text messages from people or Facebook messages from people saying, you are so lucky that your husband will take your children to Walmart with him to go grocery shopping. I can't even get my husband to go grocery shopping, let alone take my 1 or 2 children. And he has like 3 or 4 of them. And you're just so lucky. And it makes me furious because I say to my husband all the time, have you ever gotten a message from a single person saying, you are so lucky that your wife will go to Walmart and take all of the children with her? And I know people don't mean anything by it. And, I never get really mad at people, but he, if we need groceries, Josh will load up the cars and he'll go get groceries. And he does most of the running back and forth of the kids simply because he's at the school so much and everything they do is at the school. So a lot of times they're all down at the school doing stuff. And I'm also in school right now trying to finish up my master's degree. So if it was not for him having no preconceived ideas about who should be responsible for what and truly just working with me, and we just gauge during football season. I feel like I'm pretty much a single mom most of the season because football is 365 days of the year, but during the actual season he's not here much, and so I pretty much manage everything. But
Yeah.
when it's not football season, we just kind of do, we just communicate back and forth a lot and say, what we got going on. And if I say to him, what, I can't deal with it today, I need some peace and quiet, he'll load up the kids and he'll go. And vice versa, if he says, I have a football meeting and it's going to be 4 hours today, I'll say, go have, do your thing and I got it. And I'll make sure dinner's ready and clean things up. And, we just work together and make it work.
And you do it oh so well. And that's coming from an outsider who gets a snippet into your life through social media and knowing both of you, but you both do it really, really well. And I truly mean that. Well, Sarah, we close every conversation out here in the podcast with 10 quick questions that I ask everybody the same question. So I'm really curious to hear your answers to these 10 questions. Here we go. The first one's super easy. Number 1. What is your morning drink of choice?
Coffee.
Okay. How do you take your coffee?
I put a little bit of French vanilla creamer in it, and it's not just my morning drink. I drink it all day long.
I know that feeling. I know that feeling. All right. This one I'm really curious about because I know, you're so musical and you have such a strong music background. Number 2, what or who is a go-to musical artist or group for you?
Oh boy. Ooh, that's a hard one for me. I have so many. So many. Oh boy. Ooh. So my all-time all-around favorite is always the Beatles. I've always been a huge fan because my dad was a fan. But I honestly, I just it just depends on the mood I'm in and what's
Right.
going on with my day and what I need to hear. And um, ooh, that's a really tough one for me to really
Well,
answer. Uh,
the Beatles is a great answer. There's nothing wrong with the Beatles. That's for sure. All right, question number 3. What movie can you watch over and over again and it never gets old?
The Princess Bride.
Yes, that I think I'm gonna have to go back and check all my episodes, but that might be the most often said answer, surprisingly. I mean, it's a great film, don't get me wrong, but I'm often surprised how many people say The Princess Bride. It is great. It's a great film.
Oh, it is. I could probably see the whole thing.
Number 4. What is the last thing that you read?
I reread She's Come Undone by Wally Lamb.
Okay. Number 5. What's your favorite pizza topping?
Oh. I my favorite pizza topping. Hopefully nobody yells at me for this one. Artichoke hearts, actually. Josh and I make homemade pizza a lot, and I like artichoke, onion, black olive, and pepperoni and salami. It's like the best pizza ever.
There you go. Question number 6. Laying on the beach or going for a hike?
Oh gosh, laying on the beach for sure.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Number 7. You have invited me over for dinner. What are you making?
I would make you homemade General Tso's chicken.
Oi. Okay. Okay.
Oh,
That
it's
sounds
so
good.
good.
I'll eat it. That's for sure. Sounds great. Number 8. What is a dream vacation destination of yours?
Oh my gosh. So I would love, love, love to go to Ireland someday. But right at this very
Mm.
moment, my dream vacation would be to just get a cabin in the woods and just sleep for about 4 days. Nobody to bother me, no phones.
That sounds like a good vacation these days. I know exactly what you're talking about. Number 9. What is something that you are afraid of?
I'm not really afraid of anything. Um, I don't have any. I'm not afraid of spiders or snakes or closed spaces or I don't know.
Really? Nothing?
I really don't know what to tell you for that.
Oh, no, fair enough. Fair enough. You are invincible. Nothing can scare Sara Mull. That's okay. That's okay. All right, last question. What job, other than the ones that you've had in your life, would you love to have?
I've been asked that question before, and there is really no other job that I would like to have other than nursing. I really love what I do. I getting to take care of people and talk with people and meet people and help nurses take care of people is real. I really feel like it's my true calling, and I can't think of anything else I would rather do.
Sounds great. Sara, there are certain people that I think are made for the jobs that they have, and you fit that bill in my mind 100%. If I'm ever sick, I hope you're my nurse. Let's just say that for a lot of reasons. I know that I would get the best care anywhere.
Thanks. Thank
Oh
you.
my goodness.
I appreciate that.
Sarah, we're keeping it PG here. Sarah, we've shared a lot of laughs and a lot of music over the years and a great friendship, and thank you for that friendship. It's your fault because you're the one that extended the invitation from the start. So I thank you for that. I truly do. You and your husband are wonderful people that I'm so blessed and honored to know. And I hope that we can continue our relationship, our friendship in the years to come. And I would just like to sincerely thank you for what you do for our society and for all of the patients that you've ever served and the patients that you'll serve in the future. Thank you for that. And thanks for coming on the podcast. I really loved catching up with you again. And I can't wait to talk to you again in the near future, Sara.
Well, Doug, it was my honor and privilege to be a part of this, and I just thank you for inviting me to join. And I echo those sentiments. It's been an honor to be your friend, and I'm so proud of everything that you have accomplished. And I'm glad that you didn't turn around and run screaming when we invited you over for whatever I cooked that day, chili or spaghetti or whatever we were making. I don't know, but it's truly great to know that I have great friends out there in this world, and I definitely list you among them.
Well, thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to Doug's Front Porch, a conversational podcast with your host, Doug Maidenford. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and give a review on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. 5 stars only, please. Follow along on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just look for Doug's Front Porch. Also, please feel free to tell all of your friends about the show, and I'll see you all next time on my front porch.